The President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, reported on the advances of dialogues with opposition groups and the recovery of Venezuelan frozen assets. Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed creating a gas union with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to establish a mechanism to ship natural gas in the region. Former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin died on Wednesday at the age of 96. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Wednesday, the President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, offered a press conference from the Ayacucho Hall of the Miraflores Palace. In the conference, the Venezuelan head of state described as successful the agreement signed between the Commission representing the Bolivarian government and the opposition groups gathered in the United Platform of Venezuela last Saturday, November 26, through which part of the country's seized assets were recovered, specifically $3 billion. The money will be allocated to benefit the Venezuelan people and specifically in sectors such as education and health, as well as to the victims of the heavy rains. President Maduro also emphasized that there is still about $24 billion of Venezuelan assets to be recovered.
We have worked very hard on this agreement. It is an agreement that has very important social components for the life of Venezuela, which, in essence, is focused on regaining access to over $3 billion withheld, frozen, confiscated in bank accounts in the United States and in Europe. All that money belongs to the Venezuelan state.
In his speech, the Venezuelan president stressed that the Bolivarian Economic Agenda 2023-2030 will strengthen and stabilize the national economy to the most.
We have a clear roadmap for the coming years for economic growth and stability, including wealth distribution for social policies from 2023 through 2030. The Bolivarian Economic Agenda is made up of 18 paced and harmonious growth engines, to which we owe the 2022 economic miracle to further the real economy. That is the economy that's not based on oil exports. Despite important setbacks imposed by the economic war which we are still enduring, while we try to strengthen and stabilize the currency exchange system as much as possible, the value of the national currency, it is a daily battle.
President Maduro emphasized that 84% of Venezuelans repudiate all the coercive sanctions imposed by the United States and Europe against the country.
According to all measurements and surveys, 84% of Venezuelans reject all the United States and Europe's sanctions. They reject them, and they are sickening. There is a national consensus of more than 84% of Venezuelans to reject the sanctions and to reject those who requested the sanctions.
President Nicolas Maduro ratified the country wants elections free of coercion sanctions and emphasized that the date will be determined by the National Electoral Council in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic.
We need to dialogue because we want free elections in Venezuela, free of sanctions, free of unilateral coercive measures. We either have sanctions-free elections in Venezuela or we have sanction-free elections in Venezuela. That's the dilemma. Free elections is what we want, fair and transparent. Elections free of sanctions and free of unilateral coercive measures. Let them all be removed. Let them all be taken away. To go to fresh, beautiful, good elections at the time the Constitution determines it and the National Electoral Council as the governing body.
On Wednesday, Brazil's Superior Electoral Court announced that it is going to grant President-elect Luis Inácio da Silva his election diploma 1 week earlier than planned on December 12th. In Brazil, our correspondent Brian Meir explains what this means.
Responding to a request filed by the Brazilian Workers' Party, today the Superior Electoral Court announced that it's going to move up the date by 1 week on which it will grant President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and Vice President-elect Geraldo Alckmin their election diplomas. The election diploma is a tradition in Brazil. It's a law that took effect initially in 1946, which represents a date in which the courts finally recognize the results of the election. After this date, it becomes much harder to contest election results because of fraud. Now, it's important that the date moves up to the 12th of December because after this date that the diploma is granted, there's a window of 15 days in which people can still legally contest the election results. If the diploma had been granted on the 19th as initially planned, this would mean that on Inauguration Day, there could still be open complaints of fraud. Since we know that Steve Bannon, Jason Miller, and other American far-right operatives are working with the Bolsonaros to try and develop a kind of big steal narrative, this is important because a lot of people are worried that there could be some kind of January 6th style Capitol incursion event in Brasilia on the date of Lula's official inauguration on January 1st. Recognizing the electoral victory 1 week earlier closes the door on controversy on this day and increases the chances that the inauguration will go through without any glitches. It's an important event in Brazil. So moving this date up to December 12th is good news for President-elect Lula, it's good news for the Brazilian and the Latin American left, and it's a sign that democracy and the public institutions in Brazil are functioning properly.
Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Brazil, authorities report at least 2 people dead and about 20 vehicles destroyed after a landslide in a highway in Paraná state. According to the fire department, the heavy rainfall at the site has hampered rescue efforts, and the number of dead and missing in the accident is uncertain because there is still unknown the exact number of vehicles buried in the mud. The incident occurred on the main highway between the southern states of Paraná and Santa Catarina in Guaratuba. The National Institute of Meteorology said part of Paraná remains under a red alert due to the risk of heavy rains. So far, rescue forces have found 6 people alive. The World Meteorology Organization Secretary General Professor Peter Talas said that 2.3 billion people in the world today are facing water challenges and that the number will rise to 5 billion by the year 2050. Professor Talas said climate change and extreme weather events like flooding and frequent drought have a cascading effect on economies, ecosystems, and in all aspects of daily life. He cited a UN study saying that from 2001 to 2018, 74% of all natural disasters have been water-related. The study concluded that climate change is reducing river levels and melting glaciers as global temperatures have risen 1.1 degrees Celsius, higher than in pre-industrial times, and said no country, whether rich or poor, is spared from these extreme weather phenomena.
Here in Switzerland, we have just broken less comfortable record in melting of alpine glaciers. During the past 20 years, we have seen decrease of the alpine glacier, but we were hitting the record last summer when we lost 6.2% of the glacier because of the heat wave.
Barcelona will impose water use restrictions such as banning swimming pools from being filled due to a drought affecting large parts of Spain. Local officials said the city and its surrounding area will as Friday be put under a drought alert, joining other parts of northeastern region of Catalonia. The spokeswoman for the regional government of Catalonia, Patricia Plaja, said months of little rain forced authorities to take new decisions in order to minimize the consequences of the drought. The alert imposes restrictions on water use for farmers, factories, and livestock breeders. It is the first time since 2008 that a drought alert has been issued for Barcelona, Spain's second largest city. Spanish authorities seized 5.6 tons of cocaine worth more than 340 million euros in the port of Valencia, in the nation's biggest haul of the drug in 4 years. The Interior Ministry said in a statement that police found the drugs during a search of a suspicious shipping container that arrived in the Mediterranean port, one of Europe's busiest, from South Africa. A photo shared by the ministry showed a pile of plastic wrapped bricks with the word Rey, which translates into king, written in bold letters on them. The authorities began the investigation that led to the seizure in 2021 after becoming aware that criminal gangs were taking advantage of the legal importation of fruit and vegetables to bring drugs to Spain from the other side of the Atlantic. On Wednesday, an explosive device detonated at Ukraine's embassy in Spain. According to Kiev, an embassy worker was slightly injured when he was handling a letter in his office in the Ukrainian embassy in Madrid and went to a nearby hospital to seek medical attention. Following the incident, Ukrainian Minister Dmytro Kuleba urged Spanish police to urgently investigate this attack in order to find the whereabouts of the perpetrators. So far, Spanish police keeps a security cordon around the embassy, which is located in a residential area in northeast Madrid. An investigation is underway as Kiev ordered to tighten security in all its embassies after the blast. Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed creating a gas union with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to establish a mechanism to ship natural gas between the three countries and two other nations, including China. The two major economies of the Central Asian region share a gas pipeline to Russia and a pipeline transporting natural gas from Turkmenistan to China. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed the proposal was being discussed between the three nations because there was a need for synchronization since they all sell natural gas. The news came a day after Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev said he had talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Moscow on the issue. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the level of poverty in Russia will decrease by 10.5% by the end of the third quarter of 2022. At a meeting with members of the executive, Putin said this is an important fact in the midst of the current economic dynamics. Putin said normal revenue growth rose by 12.8% during the first 9 months of this year, but he added that this is a nominal growth and that they have to continue working to achieve real growth. More news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin, who led the country through an era of transformation from the left, died on Wednesday at the age of 96. Let's review some of his contributions to the country's domestic and foreign policy.
Jiang Zemin was an electronic engineer who in 1955 worked in the automobile factories in China and Russia. His expertise led him to provide business advice to the Beijing embassy in Moscow, as well as to hold various positions in the Ministry of Machine Industry. In recognition of his background, he was recruited by the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party and premier, Hua Guofen, in 1980, and went on to serve as Vice Chairman, Secretary General, Vice Minister, and then Minister of Electronic Industry until 1985. After holding these positions, he stepped down to become Mayor and Secretary of the Shanghai Municipal Party Committee. Between 1987 and 1989, a series of protests began, mainly in Beijing, Shanghai, and other major cities in the country. Faced with hardline leaders, Jiang Zemin appeased the demonstrators without using force. The leader acknowledged some of their demands and deployed an information campaign about the progress of the Chinese government. In 1987, given his contribution to the people, he was elected to the exclusive political bureau of the Central Committee and eventually succeeded in becoming president of the People's Republic of China between 1993 and 2003. Jiang Zemin paved the way for the country's emergence as the world's leading economy that it is today. He succeeded in returning Hong Kong to Chinese territory in 1997 after British colonial rule, and in getting the Portuguese to return Macau in 1999. He also accomplished restoring relations with the United States, despite tensions on the Taiwan Strait. He was also the key to the Asian giants joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, a decisive factor in the country's economic development.
On Wednesday, the three Shenzhou 15 astronauts met with the three Shenzhou 14 astronauts at China's space station, a historic gathering that increased manpower at the orbiting space lab to 6 for the first time. The Shenzhou 15 had been launched on Tuesday with the entire docking process lasting about 6.5 hours. The handover process will take about 5 days. The three Shenzhou 15 crew members will stay aboard China's space station for 6 months, and the 6 astronauts will live and work together for about 5 days. And they have a full schedule that includes the supply change and equipment. They will also prepare samples and an inventory of experiments and supplies.
The Shenzhou 14 crew will help the Shenzhou 15 crew transfer supplies, equipment to the space station. The Shenzhou 15 crew will also help the Shenzhou 14 crew prepare samples and other items they plan to take back and take them to Shenzhou 14. The two crews will hand over and confirm the state of equipment in the space station and of all experiments and supplies. The focus will be an inventory of all supplies. There is also a lot of work to be continued, so they need to do a handover.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese reported on a dialogue with the US authorities to put an end to the legal processes against the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. The Australian Prime Minister said Wednesday before Parliament that he regrets the actions of the British and American governments in this case, and he said it is about time to stop legal proceedings against the journalists. Albanese said that if legal proceedings continue, this could be a lengthy legal battle, and that if he were to be convicted in the United States, he could spend years in prison. The Prime Minister compared Assange's treatment with the situation of former U.S. soldier Chelsea Manning, who was sentenced to 35 years in prison for stealing secret government documents. On Wednesday, great emotions were felt in a crucial day to determine the qualifiers for the round of 16 in the Qatar 2022 World Cup. The Tunisian national team had a great farewell this November 30th after beating defending champions France in a glorious 1-0 victory that did not let them leave defeated. The match was dominated mostly by the Tunisians, who with every move deserved more than ever the victory against the Blues, which barely had chances in front of the Eagles of Carthage during the final minutes with actions of Mbappé, Griezmann and Dembélé, among others. Thus, although they did not advance to the round of 16 due to Australia's success over Denmark, the Eagles showed what they were made of with a stunning goal by captain Cassidy. In the other game of the Group D, Australia beat Denmark 1-0 with a goal from Matthew Leckie and qualified for the round of 16 as second of the group. This way, the Australian team equals its best performance in World Cups in 2010. They also reached this stage. The game was a kill or die for them because a win was only the result that would let them pass the round. Denmark was eliminated with 2 defeats and 1 draw in a group that it was, on paper, not challenging. We now go to Qatar. Our correspondent Carlos Montero is inside the stadium where Argentina secured its position in the World Cup last 16 as Group C leaders.
What a day! What a fantastic evening! Argentina beat Poland 2-0 and finished first in its group and is going to the round of 16. Poland, thanks to Mexico. Poland finished with the same points than Mexico, but they have more goals, so that Poland finished in second place, Argentina in first. Excellent game of Argentina. Dominate completely the 90 minutes, and something very important, they were all those people, the Argentine fans. They were fantastic, screaming, playing the drums over there all the time, and Argentina noticed that. The players know what's going on. Argentina my friend here from India. What do you think about the game?
It was amazing. Messi, Argentina, and hopefully World Cup will be Argentina's.
What do you think about the game?
Game was very good, but Messi did not score any goal.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going back to you, to the studios.
As the hearts of millions of fans live the emotions of the Qatar 2022 World Cup, teleSUR joins this sporting event with From the Field, a show that brings news, analysis, reviews, and more to our audience. Don't miss it, our show airs at 1 p.m. local time in Caracas and 12 p.m. New York. Remember, From the Field, only on teleSUR. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.